Have you ever overlooked something that was hidden in plain sight? One time I was in a rush to leave for the airport when my wallet was nowhere to be found. For 30 minutes, I tore up the dorm room, hurriedly scavenging every crevice when suddenly, there it was, my wallet, sitting peacefully on the bed, hiding in plain sight. I was just too stressed and frantic and hurried to see it. In the book of Ephesians, Paul prays that we would have the eyes to see what's actually hiding in plain sight. Only it's not visible to the physical eye that so often fails us, but the spiritual eye, or as he says, the eyes of our heart. The first thing Paul prays for us to see is the hope to which we're called. This hope is defined in verse 10 as God's plan for the fullness of time to reconcile all of heaven and earth in Christ Jesus. This means the renewal of our fallen world, the eradication of all evil and suffering, the redemption of our physical bodies, and union with the triune God. And notice this hope is, quote, in Christ. In other words, our hope is not so much a place, but a person. The person of Jesus who died and who rose again, therefore giving us a living hope. The second thing we're to see is the riches of his glorious inheritance. And notice, it's not our glorious inheritance, but his inheritance in the saints. In other words, that means you. You are his glorious inheritance. Sometimes we wonder why Jesus died and suffered and bled for us. And as unbelievable as it is, the answer in part here is that Jesus treasures you. He values and loves you. And Paul wants the eyes of our heart to see that we are his glorious inheritance, that he died to redeem, and that he will one day receive when God presents us, the church, as a bride, his equal. The final thing we're to see is the immeasurable greatness of his power. And notice where this power is focused. It's, quote, toward us who believe. It's not difficult to see the power of God at work in our world, but it's easy to overlook how that power is at work in our own lives. Paul wants us to see that the same power or Spirit of God that raised Jesus from the dead is now enlivening and empowering us by faith. And in verse 22, Paul describes what that Spirit is empowering us to do, namely, to be the hands and feet of Jesus who embody his mission of love for the renewal of the world. So much greater than uncovering my wallet, this is the glorious reality that lies hidden in plain sight. And rather than rushing through our day, too busy and hurried and distracted and stressed out to see it, let's take a moment to just be still and allow the eyes of our heart to slowly be enlightened to the hope and love and power that is in Christ Jesus.